Hey everyone, coming back with yet another knife review, and this one is on a Ganzo. This is the Ganzo G738, and I want to go ahead and say that if you don't have time to watch this whole video, if you're on the fence about buying this knife, go out and freaking do it in any of the colorations or handle material versions available. It is a nearly perfect knife for the money, okay? You can find these for under 20 bucks pretty commonly. Highest I've seen them at was 25, and even at 25 bucks, hell, even at 40 bucks, this is an insane value for the money, and there's actually only one real criticism that I can lay against the knife. Only one actual freaking criticism from me personally, my point of view, my preferences, and my perspective, okay? There are minor things I can nitpick at, and I probably will show those off, but only one thing to me actually serves as a real problem. But let's go ahead and jump into the review itself, and I'll show you the packaging like I try to do whenever I have the packaging. Okay, Ganzo tools, nothing is impossible. On the side here we have the hilarious write-up that Ganzo likes to do on their boxes. So thank you for choosing Ganzo knives. Ganzo knives can help you deal with all kinds of problems in your wilderness survival and daily life. When you face kinds of outdoor troubles, Ganzo series knives can make you feel more confident. Applicable. Traveling, mountaineering, venturing, pedestrianism, through the forest, collection, defending. Warning, sharp blade, handle with care, if not use, keep it fold, keep away from children. Okay, so funny write-up on the box. Over here we have a little bit of information about them. Okay, Hong Kong Firebird International Trade.co Limited. To avoid accident, please keep the tool blah blah blah, made in China on the side. A little bit more information. Knives, Ganzo knives will use the new logo, so you can see the previous logo right there, and the new Firebird logo, so they are switching the branding over. Honestly, I'll probably always call them Ganzo. Side of the box, we have our model number. Let's go ahead and open up the box to see. And you can see it's a thinner cardboard exterior with a slide out that comes with a little knife pouch. I'll never use it, but it is cute that we have it, as well as a warranty card. Now another Ganzo I have, which is this one right here. Which model was this? The F... Maybe I can get that logo to focus on the camera. There we go. The F739M. This one actually, its box came with a Band-Aid, which is freaking hilarious to me. By the way, I was not being careful, and I almost cut myself when closing that. Nicked through a top layer of skin. It's not bleeding, though. Not really. So, and that is exactly why they come with Band-Aids, for when people do stupid stuff like I just did. Anyhow, get this to focus again. There we go. And we have our warranty card slash information, so if something goes wrong, we just fill this out and we send it into Ganzo and they replace it. Alright, so that's enough time on the packaging. I know most of you probably don't give a rat's ass about how the knife is packaged, but I'm trying to show that off whenever I can. Let's go into the knife itself. Alright, so we're going to start with that blade, and it is a 440C blade, 3.5 inches long with a drop point slash spear point type design. Those of you looking at this knife may say that looks kind of familiar, and if you say that, you are absolutely right. This is more or less a copied design from the Benchmade Barrage. Alright, no surprise, Ganzo copies a lot of other companies, and they do put their own twists on it. Like the handle here is a bit different from the actual Barrage series knives. The steel is different, the lock is subtly different, the pocket clip is a bit different. But for all intents and purposes, the overall lines of this knife and design of this knife are that of a Benchmade Barrage. If copied designs offend you, you may want to shop elsewhere. Alright, but if they don't bother you, then you're going to get a hell of a blade for the money, quite literally, okay? So 440C, Ganzo's 440C, as I've been testing it in both this knife and the other one that I own, is pretty spectacular for the money. I'm not going to say it's the best 440C I've ever used, but it is head and shoulders above the vast majority of other 440Cs, $50 or under. In my own cutting with this, I compared it side by side with HCR 13MOV from Enlin, HCR 13MOV from Spyderco via my Persistence, the AUS 8 on my Schrade 503, as well as 420HC from Buck, specifically on the Bantam BLW, which I'm going to go ahead and show you one of the BLWs I own. I compared it to this one in particular, so orange against orange. And overall, I found that the 440C on this here Ganzo outperformed all the other steels. It wasn't miraculous, it did need touched up, but it did hold an edge better than those knives did. The high flat grind on this knife almost simulates a full flat grind when it comes to slicing potential and ability, but there is a bit of an upper flat as well as a false upper swedge, so it didn't go through quite as nicely as a full flat grind, but it was very effective nonetheless. Personally, I do prefer hollow grinds when we're not going for a full flat grind, but this one starts high enough on the knife that it doesn't have a steep and chunky cutting edge, which is the reason why I generally don't prefer flat ground knives. If you have them that start too low, like the Samurai Moon 962 did, then you can have a blade that cleaves more than slices, and sometimes can't even do that, even when the edge is razor sharp. I far prefer this higher flat grind to that. As I mentioned before, it's kind of a drop point, spear point design. It's pretty similar to the actual Benchmade Barrage, which honestly, for those of you out there who are worried that owning this might take away, and buying this might take away from the Benchmade Barrage sales, trust me, it won't. The only thing that this is going to do is, to someone who's considering buying the Benchmade Barrage, is it's going to give them a feel of the knife in hand, and then if they like it, they're going to want to go out and buy a Barrage even more. If they don't, well, then they didn't have to spend the money on a Benchmade. So that is our blade. In deployment, this thing comes out fast. And I do mean fast. It is a dual thumb stud design. Bring you in here. Actually, let me try something new. I'm going to zoom in on the knife. See if I can get my camera to focus. There you go. It is a dual thumb stud design, and you can see how it's stepped. So it provides very good traction and purchase to the thumb, and comes out nice and fast. By the way, our blade centering, if you can see, is pretty close, just slightly off. Okay, slightly off to that left-hand side, not too big of an issue. But the deployment on this knife is nice and fast with those ambidextrous thumb studs, equally long on both sides, so it's just as easy to get a fast deployment with your left hand, and I'm not even left-hand trained. And the lockup is tight. Up and down, there is no blade play. Side to side, I have just a hair of play in mind. I could easily adjust it with that double-sided pivot point, and I could probably get the centering to be either damn near perfect or actually perfect if I wanted to toy with that enough. For me personally, it's not a big deal. Our locking mechanism is the G-lock from Ganzo, and it is very, very similar to an axis lock. Yet again, I'm going to bring this in and show you the design. Okay, so you can see it's a stepped design, much like the thumb stud, and very similar, in fact, to another knife that I reviewed recently. Bring in that Enlin EL02. But unlike the Enlin EL2 down here, this is not sharp. It's actually fairly comfortable to actuate and never bit into my fingers. The spring tension on it is a bit tougher than a Benchmade. Okay, so it's a bit of a stouter spring, but get this back out where I need it. It isn't so tight that I can't use the lock to flip it open and close. Okay, flipping it closed generally requires a little bit more of a wrist flick. Getting it out, I can kind of, if I'm not working around a tripod anyways, I can get it out a little bit more consistently. I don't usually use the lock to open and close my knives, but for those of you who like to flip your axis locks, this one isn't going to bite into your finger or into your thumb nearly as badly as the EL02 did. That being said, the G-lock is the only thing I'm going to complain about on this knife. And it isn't the tension, it isn't the fact that it's a copy design, and it's not the lockup. Alright, it's a minor ergonomic issue in a different way than that EL02 had. And yet again, I'm going to bring us in nice and close so I can best illustrate that issue. Do you see a problem? It barely protrudes from the scales of the knife. So we have to really dig our fingers in order to get into that occluded lock. So looking at the knife like this, if I bring in that Enlin EL02 again, you can see how that lock extends past the scales. Okay, Okay, Ganzo on the bottom, Enlin on the top, making it easier to get a purchase on the Enlin's axis lock. How about this one, the Sanrenmu 763, I believe it is? Look at how that lock extends beyond the handle. Okay, yet again, Ganzo, Sanrenmu. Ganzo, Sanrenmu. That really is my only complaint about the knife, is that the lock is a little bit occluded by that G10 handle, and therefore harder to dig in there to get the knife open and closed. It isn't really that tough. I'm just so used to having knives like the 763 that I can easily just grip onto the lock, so I can, without any real effort, just grab that lock and sling the knife closed, or otherwise disengage the knife. This is a bit more buried, and that is a downside to me, but it is the only downside I can find with the knife. Handle on this one is an orange G10, and it's mildly textured, about the same as your bird knives and your Spyderco Tenacious Persistent series knives. I mentioned that it is the orange one here. You can also get it in a black G10 as well as an olive drab G10, I believe, and a wood-handled version. If you're looking for something a little classier, you can get this in a wooden scaled version, which is just beautiful. The ergonomics on the knife are phenomenal. It is extremely comfortable in hand, no hot spots during hard use of work, and we have jimping cut into both the liners and the G10 itself, and it is very functional without being too aggressive and tearing up your thumb. It locks you in nicely, especially with that ramp, but it doesn't bite into your finger like some of the really sharp angle cut jumping is. So ergonomics are beautiful. Handle is 4.7 inches long, and by the way, it is fully steel lined. I'm going to bring you in yet again. If you guys don't like the zooming, let me know, and I won't do it again in future videos. But if you look inside the knife, you can see how skeletonized those steel liners are. Okay? Which is what lets this knife come in at the weight that it comes in at. So again, we have a 3.5 inch blade, a G10 handle, and full steel liners, and the knife weighs 4.7 ounces. Which to me is a very, very acceptable weight for a blade this sized. So ergonomic handle, nice variety of colors, solid lock albeit occluded, great blade steel for the money, which by the way also sharpened right back up after everything was said and done, and has pretty good rust resistance. Out of box it was reasonably sharp. I forgot to mention that on the blade, sorry guys. But comfortable handle, solid lock, good deployment, very much acceptable centering. How's the pocket clip? Well, on the clip we kind of see something that Ganzo likes to do a lot, and that is they will copy two different companies at once. Alright, so what I mean by that is we have the Benchmade mounting system. Okay, in other words, how Benchmade likes to set their screws on their knives pocket clips. So we have the relatively close together 3-screw setup, but we have a Spyderco type spoon clip. And I didn't prepare this, so I'm going to go ahead and just grab another knife real quick, because I wasn't expecting to pull this off for the review. But here's the Spyderco Persistence. You can see that spoon build type clip, and it's the exact same thing we have going on here with the Ganzo. Same design from the mounting position down. From the mounting position up, we have more of a Benchmade style. So they're copying kind of the best of both worlds, because a lot of folks do like the spoon clip from Spyderco. It provides good tension, but the complaint is that the knives don't carry quite as deep as people like, and that will translate to the Ganzo. Okay, so here's the pocket clip, or the pocket, and we can see how the knife carries. Personally, I like how much is exposed from the handle. It's just enough for me to get a good grip on and extract the knife. And by the way, we do have a decent sized lanyard hole if you wanted to attach a lanyard. But the reason why it's genius for them to use the Benchmade mounting system is that if you don't like how it carries, you can either go out and get a Benchmade, official Benchmade loop over clip, like this one here meant for aviation, or an aftermarket clip for the same kind of knife, because this is the same clip mounting system as a Griptilian or any of the other like arrow type clip knives. So aftermarket deep carry loop over clips will cause this to also carry deep carry and will be usable on the knife. I have placed this on the scales of the knife here and lined it up. It will actually attach to the knife, and if you do so, you'll have a knife that carries about that deep. And if you want even deeper, you can go out and buy an aftermarket clip meant for a Benchmade. It will fit this knife absolutely fine. Honestly, this is an awesome knife for the money, and I cannot believe the value we're getting out of it. The only thing I would like to see is in the future, perhaps a smaller version, kind of a mini Barrage copy, because this is a bit larger than I tend to prefer to carry, though I have carried and used this one. But that is a very minor complaint. That's just something I'd like to see. Again, the only real complaint is that recessed lock. Let's show off a couple other knives that you can buy for the same price point, and I'll start with that Enlin ELO2 that I already showed off. If you guys haven't seen my review on this one, we have an 8CR13 steel blade, a G10 handle, this one textured, or this one polished. They also make it in a textured. An axis lock, although it is a sharper and stiffer spring on that axis lock. Sharper axis itself, stiffer spring inside. A right-hand tip-up carry clip only, and that is not a design that you can use aftermarket clips for that I've found. Reasonably ergonomic in hand, but not nearly as such, or as so, as the Ganzo. Price point is about the same. If I had to choose between the Enlin and the Ganzo beats the Enlin all day long. How about a Schrade 503 Shore Lock? A US 8 steel blade, aluminum handle, a Shore Lock mechanism. Right-hand tip-up carry clip only, heftier at 6.3 ounces, I believe it is, but super ergonomic in hand. If I had to pick between these two knives, it becomes a lot tougher. I think this is a better value on average, but I love how this one feels in hand. I'd probably still go with the Ganzo by just a bit, but by my personal preference, the Schrade is pretty up there and pretty awesome, though you may not like it nearly as much because of the heavier weight on the knife. Here's another Benchmade Barrage copy. This is the Schrade, quote-unquote. Still can't figure out if this is actually a Schrade knife or not. Extreme Survival F24. We have a SOG arc lock, Benchmade Barrage style design, 7CR13 blade, far inferior to the 440C on the Ganzo. Super thick, chunky handle, goofy pocket clip, and listen to this. Can you hear that? There is a noteworthy amount of blade play. Not like super huge. I couldn't grab the blade and just wobble it and feel it, but if you rock that back and forth, you can feel play in this knife. Price is pretty similar. It's not even a comparison. The Ganzo blows this away, especially since this weighs like 6.8 ounces. How about the Buck Bantam BLW? And yeah, this is a pink mossy oak version, and hell yes, this is the one I've been carrying and using the most. I do have that orange handled version as well, but the pink one is just a little bit more unique. I love the look on people's faces when I break it out, and I like having varieties of colors. I think pink is a cool color. Fight me. But similar price point, comes in around 23 bucks, 420 HC steel from Buck. Buck's 420 HC is pretty awesome. In my cutting tests, this 440C did outperform it, but it's close enough. Glass reinforced nylon handle on this one, right hand tip down carry only clip. There is a fair amount of blade play side to side in this pinned pivot knife. You guys see that? But similar price point, it is going to be a competitive option if you're looking for knives around this price and size. This is USA made, or at least USA assembled. It's an option. But that has been my review of the Ganzo G738. It is an awesome value, nearly perfect. I would just like to see a little more of that lock extended. But overall, amazing, amazing value for your money. Get it in orange G10, get it in olive drab, get it in black, or get it in wood. Either way, as long as you're getting one, it is a phenomenal knife for the money. That has been my review. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you found it somewhat informative and helpful. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Until next time, peace and take care.